It was supposed to be an ordinary evening. Soap suds, cold water, and another long night of washing cars beneath a dying streetlight. But fate doesn't always knock politely. Sometimes it slips an envelope beneath your door. For Mara, an orphan who had learned to expect nothing from the world, a gold-edged invitation to the city's grandest charity gala felt like a mistake. Or a cruel joke, yet something inside her whispered to go. To wear her mother's old silver necklace and step into a world that was never meant for her. But when the host's wife saw that necklace, the laughter in the mansion died and a chill of recognition swept through the air. Because in that moment the woman didn't see Mara. She saw a ghost from her past, a name she had buried long ago. Lydia. The invitation came wrapped in gold. Its paper thick, its seal unbroken, a thing far too beautiful to belong in Mara's world. She found it one evening wedged under the door of her small, cracked apartment, where the walls hummed with the sound of other people's hunger and forgotten dreams. She almost threw it away. Rich people didn't invite girls like her anywhere, unless it was to scrub something. But curiosity had its own voice, and that night, it spoke louder than reason. She slid a trembling finger beneath the seal. Inside was a card, embossed in silver. You are cordially invited to the Rosenhill Charity Gala, November 12th, 8 p.m., the Grand Arlston Mansion. Her heart beat faster. The Arlston Mansion, the kind of place that lit up the skyline every December where politicians, CEOs, and the city's most flawless people smiled for cameras. Mara had spent countless mornings washing their cars outside office towers, watching them glide past like they were made of glass. Now, somehow, she was invited into their world. But why her? There was no sender's name, no note. Just the gold seal and her name written in neat cursive, Mara Elise. That night, sleep didn't come easily. She lay staring at the ceiling, the words replaying in her mind until they blurred with the shadows. Her hands, calloused raw from detergent and cold water, brushed against the small silver necklace around her neck. Its surface was dulled, its design simple, a small hollow pendant in the shape of a teardrop. It had belonged to her mother, the only thing left after the fire. By morning she had made her decision. The evening air was thick with perfume and the hum of expensive laughter. The Grand Arlston Mansion loomed ahead, a palace of glass and marble, lit by chandeliers that spilled light like liquid gold. Mara stood outside the iron gates, wrapped in a borrowed navy blue dress that clung too tightly at the waist. The fabric shimmered faintly when the wind caught it, but she still felt invisible. Inside, she rehearsed her smile. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't look too long at anyone. A valet took her name without looking up, checked a list, and nodded. Welcome, Miss Elise. The words felt foreign, like wearing someone else's skin. As she stepped through the doors, the sound hit her. Laughter, strings, the clink of glass. The hall was alive with color and movement. Women in gowns that sparkled like stars, men in tailored suits, and waiters gliding like shadows. Every surface gleamed. Every face seemed to say, you don't belong here. Mara swallowed hard and drifted toward a corner, pretending to admire the paintings. Each one seemed to watch her, their painted eyes glinting under chandelier light. She caught her reflection in a mirror. And for a heartbeat, she almost didn't recognize herself. Her dark hair fell softly around her shoulders. Her eyes, usually tired and guarded, looked almost curious. She touched the silver pendant around her neck, grounding herself. It was then that she noticed a group of women nearby, whispering. Their laughter was delicate but sharp, like glass breaking under velvet. Who invited her? One murmured. Probably one of those social experiment things, another replied with a smirk. How quaint. Mara turned away before they could see the sting in her eyes. She wanted to leave, but something about the air in that room, charged and unfamiliar, kept her there. Then, a voice behind her said softly, That's a beautiful necklace. Mara turned. The woman standing there looked like she'd stepped out of a portrait. Elegant, poised, her dress the color of champagne. Her smile was practiced, but her eyes were searching. Thank you, Mara said quietly. It was my mother's. The woman's expression faltered. Her gaze dropped to the pendant, and suddenly all the color drained from her face. For a moment the room blurred. The chatter, the music, the laughter, everything dulled into silence. Where? Where did you get that? The woman whispered. Her voice trembled. Mara blinked. It belonged to my mother. I don't really... The woman's hand shot out, gripping Mara's wrist. What was her name? Mara hesitated, startled by the desperation in her tone. Lydia, she said softly. Lydia Elise. The woman stumbled back as if struck. The champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the marble floor. Heads turned. The orchestra's rhythm faltered, then stopped altogether. Mara, a man's voice called. The host, tall and commanding, stepping forward with confusion in his eyes. What's happening? But the woman, his wife, didn't answer. Her eyes stayed fixed on Mara, wide with disbelief. That necklace, she whispered, trembling. It can't be. Mara took a step back. Why, what's wrong with it? The woman's lips parted, a single word escaping in a voice so fragile it barely carried. Lydia. And just like that, the grand ballroom fell silent. Every face turned. Every whisper died. The air thickened with something unspoken, something ancient and heavy. Mara's breath hitched. You knew my mother? The woman didn't answer. Her knees seemed to weaken as her husband caught her by the arm, whispering her name, but she didn't hear him. Her eyes, glassy and haunted, never left Mara's face. Who are you? She whispered, her voice breaking. How do you have her necklace? Mara's pulse quickened. She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. The room had turned into a cage of eyes and questions. I told you, she stammered. It was my mother's. She died when I was 6. I don't know why. Your mother, the woman interrupted, her tone shaking between disbelief and terror. She was supposed to be dead long before that. The words struck the air like thunder. The host looked sharply at his wife. Clara, stop. You're scaring the girl. But Clara didn't stop. Her trembling hand reached toward Mara, fingertips barely grazing the pendant. And for a fleeting second, something in her face shifted. Recognition, guilt. Then she whispered again, barely audible. She's back. The orchestra stood frozen. The guests exchanged nervous glances. Mara felt her throat tighten. The lights above flickered once, then steadied. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. And as the first raindrops tapped against the mansion's glass walls, Mara realized she hadn't been invited by mistake. Someone wanted her there. Someone who knew exactly what that necklace meant. Mara's fingers tightened around the pendant as the host's wife stared at her like a ghost from another life. The storm outside deepened, lightning flashing against the glass, and with every strike Mara's reflection blurred just a little more, as if the past was beginning to bleed through. Somewhere in that mansion a truth waited, buried beneath silver and secrets, and it was coming for her. The silence after Clara's whisper was almost unbearable. Dozens of eyes bore into Mara, but all she could hear was the frantic beating of her own heart. The ballroom, once golden and alive, now felt like a stage where she was both the actor and the accused. Clara, what's going on? The host's voice trembled with restrained anger. You're frightening our guests. Clara didn't move. Her fingers trembled as they hovered near Mara's necklace, afraid to touch it yet unable to look away. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Mara's voice cracked through the tension. You said her name, Lydia. That was my mother. You knew her? Clara's eyes glistened. Knew her, she echoed. I owed her my life. The crowd shifted uneasily. Somewhere a waiter dropped a glass, the sharp shatter slicing through the heavy air. Please, Mara whispered, stepping closer. Tell me, who was she to you? Clara's husband, Richard, tried to intervene. Clara, enough. We'll talk later. This is not... But Clara turned on him with a voice so fierce it made him stop cold. You don't get to silence me anymore. Every head turned. The orchestra members glanced at one another, unsure whether to flee or stay. The lights flickered once, briefly dimming the golden hue of the chandeliers. Clara faced Mara again. Your mother? Lydia was everything I wasn't, brave, honest, poor, yes, but with a heart I could never match. Her words broke apart like glass under weight. And she paid for my mistakes. Mara blinked in confusion. Your mistakes? Richard's voice was low, warning. Clara, but she continued, unstoppable now, her voice trembling under decades of buried guilt. I was young, foolish, and terrified of losing my place in this family. I was engaged to Richard, but I didn't love him. I loved someone else, someone the Arlston family would never accept. When they found out, they threatened to ruin me. Her breath hitched. And Lydia, she tried to protect me. Mara frowned. Protect you? From what? Clara's eyes darkened. From them. From my father, from Richard, from this house. She motioned weakly around her as if the walls themselves were listening. Your mother knew too much. She was my maid then, just a girl. But she had the courage I didn't. She tried to help me escape. She was the only one who treated me like a person. The room buzzed with shock, gasps breaking the stillness. Richard's jaw tightened. That's enough, Clara, she ignored him. We were caught that night, my father. Her voice faltered and she turned away as if the memory itself burned. There was a fire. They said it was an accident, but it wasn't. Lydia saved me. She pulled me from the smoke. And then she vanished. Mara's knees went weak. Vanished? They told me she died. Clara's voice cracked. But she must have escaped. That necklace, I gave it to her before she ran. It was supposed to be mine. A symbol of the Arleston bloodline, passed down for generations. I told her to take it, to pawn it, to start over. I never thought I'd see it again. Mara's fingers brushed the pendant. It felt suddenly heavier, colder, as if the metal itself remembered. My mother never told me any of this, Mara whispered. She died when I was 6. The fire took her too. The words seemed to tear something inside Clara. Her hand covered her mouth as tears welled up. No, she breathed. No, that can't be. She promised she'd run far away. The murmurs around them grew louder. Wealthy faces twisted in curiosity and discomfort, their perfect masks cracking. Richard stepped forward, voice firm but trembling. This girl is confused. She's probably mistaken. We don't know who her mother was. She's not mistaken, Clara interrupted, her tone icy and certain. Look at her, Richard. The eyes, the way she stands. She's Lydia's child. You can't deny that. Richard's face paled. Clara. And in that single look between them, a flicker of guilt, of recognition, Mara understood something terrible. You knew her too, Mara said softly. Didn't you? Richard's composure cracked. Enough. His voice thundered through the hall. This is absurd. You think some street girl can waltz in here with an old trinket and claim she's part of our past? This is nonsense. But his outburst didn't convince anyone, least of all his wife. Clara's voice shook. Tell her the truth, Richard. He looked at her with a warning in his eyes, but she didn't back down. Tell her, she repeated, tears streaking her face. Tell her what you did to Lydia that night. Gasps rippled through the guests like wind through dry leaves. Mara's breath caught. What did he do? Clara turned to her slowly, eyes full of horror and pity. A sudden crack of thunder shook the glass walls. The chandeliers flickered violently, once, twice, and then everything went black. Screams filled the dark. Someone shouted for candles, another for security. The air smelled of panic and perfume. Mara? Clara's voice echoed faintly in the chaos. Mara, where are you? But Mara didn't answer. Her pulse thundered in her ears as she backed away from the voices. The darkness felt alive, pulsing with the weight of too many truths. Her hand closed around the silver pendant. It felt warm now, impossibly warm, as if the past itself was breathing beneath her skin. And then, amid the shuffle of frightened guests and the flashlights cutting through black, someone whispered close to her ear, a voice she didn't recognize. She was never supposed to survive. Mara froze. Who said that? No one answered. The whisper dissolved into the storm's roar. When the lights finally returned, Clara stood at the center of the hall, pale and shaking, her eyes darting wildly around the room. Mara? She called again. But Mara was gone. The doors to the mansion were open, rain sweeping in across the marble floor. Only a few drops of blood marked the spot where she had stood moments before. Clara's gaze fell to the floor, to that trail of crimson and silver reflections. A sob escaped her lips. She knows now, she whispered, voice trembling. God help us all. She knows. Outside, the storm swallowed the night, thunder roaring like a confession long delayed. Somewhere beyond the mansion's gates, Mara ran into the darkness, clutching the necklace that carried both her mother's love and the truth that had destroyed lives. And as lightning split the sky, one thought burned through her fear. The past wasn't done with her. Not yet.